What is up, YouTube? It's Last Surprise here. Now, I saw this Reddit post, 150 comments, something like that. Yep, 153 comments, 0 upvotes, thoughts of a returning High Masters player, and I thought, oh my goodness, I need to react to this. So I have not read this at all whatsoever. This is my first read through. As soon as I saw this and opened this up, I started hitting the record button. And yeah, we're just gonna react to this. TLDR, StarCraft is bad now, and that sucks. Oh, okay. First, for my credentials, for the inevitable trolls that somehow think being able to execute something and understanding something are the same thing. I have played over 10,000 games of StarCraft. I have 10 Masters finishes, including several top 8. I have a top 8 diamond finish from before Masters or Grandmasters existed. I've written a replay analysis website and ranking system for this game. I know StarCraft. Now that the nonsense is out of the way, let's get on to the main point. StarCraft sucks now, and it's sucked for a while, since early to mid Wings of Liberty. Conservatively, 90% of StarCraft players have quit this game, and they quit it for a reason. As for the less than 10% left, you may still like what it is now, but that doesn't change the fact that what it is now is a mostly unplayable, buggy mess. After what, 15 years of development, 11 of them after release, the game is worse than it was on release. Let's talk about why it's worse. Okay. Sure. Balance/design issues. We'll give this man his platform. I'm assuming he's a dude, I guess. None of the problems present on release or throughout Wings of Liberty have been addressed. Instead, the game has been perverted and power crept, seemingly to avoid just adding the superior designs of Brood War, Lurkers, and Microbial Shroud aside. Terran still just gets tons of advantages, like meals being free / mining past the supply cap / mining past the saturation cap, higher starting supply, higher health on SCVs, salvage repair rates, planetary fortresses, parentheses, both existing plus bugging out the AI of nearby armies. This is on top of their army having some of the highest move speed / DPS per mineral spent and per ground area occupied, and having some of the best tech timing / units in the game. Reapers are back, and while they aren't the threat they were, it's still nearly impossible to stop them from getting full vision of your entire base, and thus still change the possible openings for other races. Banshees, instead of being nerfed, have gotten faster. Oh. Hell it! Gotta get through this. We'll read everything before saying anything. Hellions, instead of being nerfed, have been given a utility transformation. Look no further than the Widow Mine and Medevac for examples of power creep. In Wings of Liberty, Blizzard nerfs the Medevac's move speed and acceleration, and removed Kadarin Amulet because blowing up mineral lines that early in the game was deemed too good. Fast forward a year or two, and now Medevacs have stim. Terran can obliterate mineral lines at 4 minutes game time, with Widow Mines that for the most of the player base cannot be targeted down before they burrow. There's a reason Spider Mines never hit workers, and consumed themselves, and could be targeted down, and had to path their targets. On top of this, for seemingly no good reason, the new version of Valkyries has a ground mode that deals DPS to rival the carrier on a unit that can be reactored. Battle cruisers cannot teleport anywhere on the map for free, regardless or not Terran has vision. On the Zerg side of things, the buffs seem to have no end. Zerg was already too dominant at the end of Wings of Liberty, with all the timing nerfs for other races, plus Queen / Overlord buffs. Now the entire economy of the game has been shifted to favor Zerg style of play, with mass frequent expanding. Queens can now hold most harassment timings off by themselves, while the Zerg can drone non-stop, and with the 12 worker start, the window to punish them for this droning is nearly non-existent. Not only do Zerg have some of the most competitive early units in the game, leftovers from a time when they actually had to spend larva to defend, they no longer even have to spend larva to defend at all. On top of that, the map design of the game has again changed to benefit Zerg, with ramp blocking no longer an option to punish greed, and now every map seems to have high ground spots to place scouting overlords that cannot be dislodged without any units. Might I remind you that this scouting is completely free. On top of all this, Zerg tech units have gotten a huge boost in utility with the return of Lurkers, the cheese possibilities of Flying Locusts, better Hydra upgrades, Parasitic Bomb, Microbial Shroud, Caustic Spray, and Ultralisk armor buffs. Beetlisks are faster and heal themselves out of combat now, a change so oppressive that Zerg had to double the damage of Spore Crawlers, which are now available in the main tech path, against them. No such consideration was given to the other races, of course. For Protoss, the game is yet more gimmicky and flimsy. Even after all the build time and pylon range nerfs of Wings of Liberty, gateway units have now been further gimped by nearly unusable warping times for proxy warps. Instead of getting a gateway unit to stand up to Ling, Roach, or Marine Marauder, Protoss were given the Adept to try and cheese early worker kills with the Q Micro. Instead of getting a unit with the stats to stand on its own and non-committal aggression, they were given Master Recall on the Nexus. Shield batteries that restore at double-digit per second numbers and overcharge. More power creep can be seen with the Oracle, a unit with the capacity to erase entire mineral lines in only a few seconds, and to give you full vision of the entire army for minutes at a time. Voodoos are as fast as old Phoenixes were and deal such bonus damage to armor that there's essentially no PvP counter to them. Phoenixes have been buffed to deal with the new mutas, Tempest exists with enough dead space on most maps to be abusive, and Disruptors now require constant vigilance from both the user and the victim. Ladder / matchmaker / ranking issues. The new ladder just doesn't work at all and confuses the hell out of most players. Now there's 2 point systems, one for MMR and one for arbitrary climbing through leagues. Okay. The bonus pool is also still here and seemingly meaningless as well. These are minor issues in the face of the fact that not only is the MMR system not zero sum, it actually leaks points into the unranked MMR system. Basically, the points you gain are not always the same as the points your opponent loses and vice versa. On top of that, unranked players can move points out of the ranked MMR pool and into the unranked pool. What this means essentially is that there is infinite inflation of ranked points and a leak of ranked points into a meaningless, limitless pool. Because of this, the MMR of every single player is inaccurate. Ladder's integrity depends on everyone accepting that it is an accurate representation of player skill. And it can be shown with only a few words that this one is not. If even 10% of the players decided to do a general strike tomorrow and queue only unranked, they would be able to completely destroy this ladder. That's a huge design problem. If all that wasn't enough, the placement seemingly only places people in bronze or masters, and it takes hundreds of games to escape because you're still playing against people of roughly your MMR. This makes things so much more grinding to get to your actual rank that it's worse than most team game ladders. Conclusion. None of this was asked for by anyone. The general consensus in Wings of Liberty was that the game needed to be slower, favor small engagements across the map, and not be decided in under a second with one big fight. Instead, what we got was the doubling of starting workers, essentially making any early mid-game timings / build / scouting nuance disappear, which also speeds up the amount of time needed to form a death ball, and hugely power-crept units that create even more razor-thin timing / reaction challenges. We used to be pissed that Banshees or Storms and Mineral Lines were too good, and rightly so, but now we got Widow Mines and Oracles that destroyed Mineral Lines even faster. We used to be pissed that we couldn't stop Zergs from droning because of Queen and Overlord buffs, and rightly so. Now we can't even get a push off the ground before they finish droning because of the 12 worker start. We used to be pissed that the game would be decided in under a minute, with Bio versus Colossi Storms, or Ling Bane versus Marine Tank, or Master Roach versus Immortal / Force Fields, or Brood Infestor versus Colossus Void, and rightly so. And now if you walk across some lurkers by accident, or get hit by one Disruptor, or walk across a couple mines, you instantly lose the game. I love StarCraft, and it was one of the better games out there, and seemingly immune to all the bullshit ladder inadequacies / balance that pervaded every other multiplayer game in the last 10 years. It sucks to come back to it and see it in such a state. StarCraft is just another bad game now, and Blizzard has stooped to the level of every nonsense game trying to make it. Once we launched streaming as a platform, now a single League of Legends streamer gets more views than most StarCraft tournaments do. That's the level of failure I almost can't comprehend. If League is doing something better than you, it's time to seriously reevaluate your approach. Now, to cut off some of the nonsense you're probably going to type when you read this, because I've heard it all before. Your rank is too low to analyze this. Don't care doesn't hold water. I heard it when I was playing bronzes, and I heard it when I was playing pros. Sportscasters analyze games they've never played all the time, and that's perfectly acceptable. Blizzard just knows better than us. They've got people who are qualified. No, Dustin Browder's credentials are an English literature degree and ruining StarCraft / Heroes. David Kim has a relevant degree, but he also helped to run StarCraft / Heroes into the ground. And he's doing the same to Diablo 4 right now. This is a company that is literally being sued by the government for being so incompetent that they harass their points to the point they can use. At least some portion of the people who wrote StarCraft actually had to break off and form their own company because Blizzard is so bad. Don't defend them. Just leave it if you don't like it. I did, so did 90% of all players. That's the problem. You shouldn't be happy about that. Sounds like you're mad about your rank. Stop whining and get good. No, I got good back in the day when the game was less power crept and therefore more balanced and harder. It's a common misconception that the players have gotten better since then. If you keep the goalposts in the same place but give players better equipment, they won't have to work as hard to get there. That said, I can see why people think the players are better now because the ladder is much more of a slog and the game is much more inconsistent / imbalanced than it was. That said, it doesn't matter. If you like pretend I'm bronze and tell me why I'm wrong without mentioning my rank, you're crazy. Sounds like you're a troll or a dumbass. Yes, okay. He's very very self-introspective. I can respect that. Yes, everyone who doesn't like the thing you like is insane or a troll, including 90% of the players who bought the game who have since left. Everyone else is the problem, not you. I disagree. You know what? Me too. You're right. And the way you framed your argument has really changed my mind and, in fact, my life as a whole. I love the way you argued your point. Cool. 1v1 me, bro. Sure, you just have to explain me how our 1v1 changes how StarCraft or any of my arguments work. In fact, submit to me a code sample that changes unit stats based on the outcome of our 1v1. I'm curious how you'd handle changing replays as well without a patch because it has to be dynamic. Unless you think the servers will shut down and patch after 1v1, everyone in the world playing StarCraft will get a patch. Huh? Okay, sure. David Kim and Dustin Brown are gone. Yeah, none of the design or balance influences of their 10 years being in charge of this game stuck around either. Literally none of the units or issues from Wings of Liberty or Heart of the Swarm are here at all, and none of their influences can be felt at all, right? Okay. Why even talk about anything any company does? Waste of time to read or write it. Yeah, nothing about any company's actions has ever changed based off what the community talks about or does. We should all sit in silence. That worked really well for the last 10 years of StarCraft. All the players left because the game is old. No other games from around the same time have still retained much more of their player base than StarCraft has. Even direct strategy competitors like Dota and League of Legends. You can speculate as to why, but I think it's pretty obvious. I'm not reading that, but I'm happy for you. Sorry that happened. Okay. Wow. So I guess I'll just start with the whatever credentials, doesn't matter. Balance / design issues. So I'm honestly not quite sure like what he's even like. I'm gonna assume this is a dude. I'm sorry. I don't know what the heck this guy is even saying. He's just kind of saying things have gotten better. He just doesn't. I suppose he's saying that because units have gotten power creeped and gotten stronger, this is bad for the game because Brood War did not have to have any power creep or any units changing. But I think that's just wrong. that's just wrong. Because from StarCraft 1 to StarCraft Brood War, there were so many broken tools that got released. He mentions like the Valkyrie. Valkyrie didn't exist in StarCraft 1. Imagine you're playing Zerg in StarCraft 1 and you just figured out Mutalisk micro somehow. I don't actually know when that was discovered, but imagine you're just microing Mutalisk, you're just dicking on everyone because medics don't exist. So you're just killing noobs. And then Blizzard releases Brood War, and then like the Valkyrie gets released and medics get released. You're like, oh, what the fuck? So I think just because units get stronger or races get stronger isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I feel as if, I don't want to say it's natural because I don't know enough about game design, but I know at least in card games it is very natural for this to happen. Balance doesn't mean when you have a scale and it's balanced, that doesn't necessarily, whether a scalar is balanced or not does not depend on the weight that is on both sides, or the mass rather, the mass that is on both sides of the scale. Whether that scale is balanced or not is not dependent on the magnitude of these masses. All that matters is that they're the same. So he feels that having stronger tools is wrong and bad. Now, there are some points that I can actually say, oh, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. Like things like Widow Mine drops and stuff like that. I can actually, it's kind of bullshit. If I can say disruptors are bullshit, then I can say Widow Mines are probably bullshit too. For that, I can actually agree with that. I feel that it's frustrating to play against, but at the same time creates amazing spectator moments. So definitely lots of drawbacks and benefits to this. I don't understand like why having some of the best tech timing / units in the game. Okay, what are they, right? Are they the best? Like, how do you know they're the best? He kind of just says they're the best, but then doesn't say any of them. Like, how can you know the timings are the best if you don't even play the game? If you haven't played Wings of Liberty, then you're not going to know the timings at all, let alone which one is the best out of the 3 races. So this seems just wrong. And like, I know it's like, oh yeah, you're not good at the game. No, this is just saying like you're just not going to know. You're just not gonna know. Reapers are back. Okay, I could actually understand this complaint. Early game Reapers kind of just get in and get scouting tools. I can understand if you don't like that. I don't really have an answer to say no. This is exactly how the game was meant to be. And it is. They were implemented this way on purpose. Because otherwise, you're just kind of gambling a lot, I feel, if you don't make Reapers in certain places. So, I can understand that sentiment, but at some point you have to realize that a lot of this balance was built off of a certain foundation. So if you're making... So this goes back again to the image of the scale. Let's say you have a balanced scale, just like the 2 thing, like the justice, scale. When you make an expansion, you have to make they put in units, and honestly, they probably should have makes the game very exciting when they put in new units and give players more tools. If you give one race more tools, then you must give the other race more tools as well. And this builds on itself. It's cumulative. So if you're to chop down one, then you would have to chop down the other. So in this sense, you have to give other races more tools, which creates power creep. If you were to tell Blizzard, no, you're not supposed to give the players more tools with new expansions, that would seem a little bit silly. Because that's one of the most exciting parts of StarCraft, is the adding of tools. I'm sure removing of tools is pretty exciting, when they took off the mothership core. But they replaced it with another tool that was, very powerful as well. Okay, I kind of want to do, a bigger comb through. I want to address this more generally. Actually, I don't want to, go through and be like, oh, yeah, this is actually just wrong, and oh, this is just wrong. And I feel like the way that a lot of this is framed is just, it feels as if they're trying to fit a square peg into a circle hole, They're trying to just knock this thing in here, and it's just not how the game works. I don't really know what else to say. Also, this is kind of funny to me because Ultralisk have armor buffs in Brood War, but I don't really understand what he wants from the game design. Some of this is just kind of wrong. No one cares about Tempest and Dead Space. Literally nobody cares. The only time people cared was when someone tried to do a proxy tempest on Purity of Industry in the GSL. They actually lost. Um, okay, people will kind of care about Void Rays, whatever. I don't know in PvP, but from what I see, if there's no counter to Void Rays, then people would only go Void Rays, and that's just not how the matchup works. Unusable warp times. Sure, I mean, not... okay, no, it's... I feel like that's just pretty reasonable, because I feel like he complains about things being about races having too many tools and too power creeped. And then when they unpower creeped Protoss, and they didn't give them that much power creep, in fact, they nerfed Warpins, which was one of, if not their strongest tool, he's now complaining that it got nerfed and it got gimped. And I don't really understand the logic here. And the way one of the things that really confuses me is that he's like, oh my gosh, this race is so strong, and this race is so strong. Like, look at all the tools they have. Therefore, the game is bad. And that's just, I don't understand what the point is here. Things can be strong. Races can have strong tools. That's how the game works. No matter what you do, as long as people have different tools, then some of those tools will be better than the others, and relative to the other races, they will have very strong tools. Better tools, in fact. Like that. So like, to say that because one race has strong tools and the other race also has strong tools, it's like you're saying, oh, you have the best timings in the game. They're so good, impossible to stop the Terran pushes. And then you go to Zerg, you're like, oh my gosh, they had such an economy. It's crazy. It's impossible to stop their economy. And I'm like, okay, well, now you're just saying there's an unstoppable force versus an immovable object. And like, I can understand where some of this is like coming from. Like, oh yeah, if you just play perfectly, then you're just... It's like, well, no, that's just... It just doesn't happen that much. Just doesn't really happen. Now, believe me, there are plenty. I just want to say this to finish this off on the balance side. There are plenty of things you can complain about for design in StarCraft 2. Like, there are plenty of things that you can complain about. But if you're complaining about, like, Hellbats existing, and who wanted Hellions to be nerfed? Like, I don't understand. Did he expect Blizzard to be like, guys, Legacy of the Void is dropping. We're so excited. We're nerfing everything. All of the tools that you've enjoyed using, they're now just worse. I hope you guys enjoy the game. I will see you never again. Like, no. That would be foolish to say. Why does he expect things to be nerfed over time? A lot of games will actually have natural power creep. You look at card games, for instance, 100%. I do not know of a single card game that does not have any power creep in it. It's just very natural for games that have to add content and add new tools. When you add these new tools, you must make them at least somewhat usable. So that's going to be okay. Like, Hellbats, man, really? Okay. The new ladder system. Okay, honestly, he's completely right in that the climbing through leagues and ladder point system, literally completely fucking useless. But like, who cares? You know, it's just there. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, I guess, like, for efficiency's sake, you could say, oh, it just takes computing power. I'm like, okay, sure, you can just you could take it out and put in the money to and the coding to take it out, or you could just leave it there because it's not hurting anyone. In fact, it's kind of cool to just click on your league and you say, oh, there's like a pro player Smurf in my league, or you can like see, oh, there's my friend and look at his wins and losses. No one has ever been like, God, I fucking hate this shit. I can't believe they added this system so garbage. No, the system is useless. It doesn't mean anything. So there's nothing wrong taking it out, and there's nothing wrong with leaving it in. It's just, if they took it out, I'd be like, all right, whatever, it's pretty useless. And if they left it in, then I'd be like, all right, that's cool, it's pretty useless. Okay, but they need to make match history usable. Oh my gosh, please. This is just inaccurate. This is just not a correct understanding of how elo systems work. On how there's an infinite inflation of like ranked points. The points you gain are not always the same as the points your opponent loses, and vice versa. This is how elo systems are supposed to work. If having a zero-sum elo system, this is okay for someone who claims that they have designed their own ranked ladder system. This is just a severe lack of understanding, at least to my knowledge. If I'm reading this correctly, this is just an incredible, like, I don't even know. That's just not how the elo system works. That's just not how, if you're a better player and you're facing against a lower ranked player, I just don't understand. I literally just don't understand. Like, you could. Okay, here's what I'll say. If they're not always the same. Okay, this is just like, oh my god. Okay. The reason, okay, slogging through ranks and ranking up is not actually that big of a slog if you're good, because if you're win streaking, the game will give you higher ranked opponents. If you get higher ranked opponents, then you're able to gain a lot of ladder points. So let's say this actually happened, I think. Parting is playing on a 4.5 MMR account named Squid Game, and I'm 5k MMR, and Parting has literally not lost a single game, has not lost the past 30 games. The game client is going to think that he's probably not supposed to be at 4.5k MMR. So when I face against Parting and get my ass blasted to Kingdom Come, Parting is going to gain like, and actually did gain, if I recall correctly, he gained like 150 points, and then I lost like 30 points or whatever. This is because the game actually thinks that he is above the MMR than where he should be, if I understand the MMR system correctly. Now, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I have not created a ranking system myself, so maybe I'm the ignorant one in this sense. But I feel that this is just, I can kind of understand what he's saying with unranked, but unranked also has its own MMR system, and you have MMR and unranked. So if you had unranked MMR, then you would, and if everyone started playing unranked, then they would just have MMR, but they just wouldn't be able to see it. So it would be the exact same if everyone started playing unranked. If I understand correctly, the ladder would be crazy on like the first day when everyone is at like really weird ranks. So for instance, my unranked MMR, I'll face like diamond plays or something like that. That's going to be really weird, but eventually it's going to be the exact same thing because it's still run by the same MMR system if everyone plays unranked. So then eventually they'll just it'll just be like playing ranked, but you can't see your MMR. That's literally what would happen. Conclusion: none of this was asked for by anyone. No, that's just wrong. That's just, there have been a lot of really cool things that they've done. The general consensus of Wings of Liberty was that the game needed to be slower, favor more small engagements across the map, and not be decided under second by a big fight. I feel like that's, I wasn't there in Wings of Liberty, but that just doesn't seem right to me, because in Heart of the Swarm, the game was very, very, very slow, and everyone fucking hated that shit. Because, like, just watch Mana vs. Firecake, man. Like, nobody... Swarm hosts were the slowest units ever designed. That was just god-awful. Just not smart in hindsight. And that was... it. Like, do you just want Swarm hosts back? Like, did you play Zerg and Heart of the Swarm or something? Like... okay. We got doubling made early, mid-games, timings, death balls, nuance disappear. That's just... okay, that... no? Okay. There was a Terrancraft article that I believe it was from Terrancraft at least, that was like, there actually was a lot of build order nuance with the 6-worker start. So I think it would be interesting if you had the 6-worker start, but then you still had the bases have less resources, such that the game will still be faster paced, and but you also retain the build order nuance of having little workers. And I didn't really look into that much, but I will say this, to say that the build order nuance just doesn't exist seems kind of silly. And also the downtime in the start of StarCraft games being so low was actually, I love that. Like, that was so nice to me. Like, games just start. Like, the game just begins in like a minute, and interesting things are already happening. This is why I really dislike playing games like League of Legends, where the game the draft will happen, and you're like, whatever, I'm just solo queuing. Who gives a shit about draft? You're kind of malding a little bit because your teammate picks something stupid, then you're like, whatever. Get into the game, you have to wait like a minute, and then you're playing lane, and then like that's when the game actually starts. Like, I feel like removing more empty time, because for the vast majority of players, you're like, oh my god, I'm in Platinum League. My 7th worker optimization on my build order is going to truly win me the game. Like, nobody gives a shit. Just do the standard. Just make the shit when you have the money. It's not... okay. It sucks to see. It's just a... oh, I actually thought that this was much more interesting. Now, I don't actually know if this is true because I didn't play Wings of Liberty. We were pissed that Banshees or Storms and Mineral Lines were too good. Banshees were good because everyone was just not good at the game. As people got better, Banshees were just less effective, and people just understood the game better. Now, you might say Storms and Mineral Lines is probably too good, and okay, I could kind of see that, but you have to understand, nobody does that. Like, nobody does that. Okay, not many people use Storms and Mineral Lines. I think it's a very strong tool, but because it's strong, it has high commitment. So you're committing spellcasters, not only the opportunity cost of their energy being used. So let's say you miss. Now you don't have Storms in your army. But you're also committing all of your High Templar alone inside of a Warp Prism, running into a base that will hopefully have air defense. And if you lose the Warp Prism and the High Templars in it, you might just lose the game. So I think this is fine. Like, it's strong for sure in the right situations. But the reason why people don't do this that much is because it's high committal. You're throwing spellcasters inside of a flimsy air unit. So, Widow Mines and Oracles. Okay, people did complain about this, and still complain about this. So this is I could kind of see where this is coming from, honestly. I mean, Oracle's pretty sure they got nerfed. Widow Mines are pretty bullshit. I'm not gonna lie. We used to be pissed that we couldn't stop. Now we can't even get a push off the ground before they finish droning because of a 12 worker start. What does finished droning mean? Like, it doesn't mean getting to 80 drones, because that's not how the game works. I don't know, just get good, hit a timing, Kek W. Oh wait, no, your rank is too low to this. Used to be pissed that the game would be this, or decided in under a minute. With Bio versus Colossus Storm, or Ling Bane versus Marine Tank, or Master Roach versus Immortal Force Field, or Brood Infestor versus Colossus Void and Riley. So, okay, the game is not ended in a second in Broodlord Infestor. The game is ended in like an hour or something, I believe. Versus Colossus Void and Riley. So if you walk across, get hit by. Was the game really decided in under a second with this, or this, or okay, maybe parting, or this, or this, or like, I don't think you're necessarily wrong in saying that it doesn't feel good to have the game decided in under less than a second. That's why they remove a lot of things, really. But there's just a lot better ways you could argue this. You know, you could just emphasize more like you don't like middle Widow Mine drops. Okay, that's a perfectly valid opinion to have. But I don't understand why, like, why you would use examples like this that are just, from my understanding of the game, it's just patently not true. Once we now a single gets more views than most StarCraft tournaments. That's with every single game. Ever. The highest Twitch view count on Twitch, I believe, was a Central American mobile Fortnite Twitch streamer who got millions of views for his skin getting put into mobile Fortnite. And that got more views than I believe that broke the view count at some point. So that would mean it would break the view count for all tournaments, including League of Legends on Twitch. And all games. So it seems foolish to say if you're not the biggest game, then you're a failure. Like, what? That's just not how the world in general works. Sure, you might say, oh, StarCraft used to be at the top, and now it's disappointing that it's not. And I'd say, oh, okay, yeah. It was nice being at the top sometimes, but games don't last forever, like games are still in the very, very infancy. Games will only grow bigger, and cooler games and newer games will only grow better. That's not a testament to saying that's not saying that like our old games are just bad or worse, but that's just saying that people are constantly innovating and making better games. In fact, I think it would almost be disappointing if the old games were the best ones and the new games are just shitty. If people can't innovate on a new industry, then that would almost be sad. Of course, the old games are still going to have a special place in our heart. I played StarCraft for many years at this point. It's always going to be special to me. But at some point, you have to realize that hopefully there's a better game that comes out. If there's a better RTS, then why? Of course, I still love the lore and the story of StarCraft. That's all even going to be in StarCraft itself. But if there's going to be an RTS that's released, hopefully soon. Oh, I love you, Mike Morheim. And it's better than what StarCraft is right now, then of course I would want to play it. Because I love games. I just love games, and I love StarCraft. I mean, who knows? I might not like it. I'll just stick with StarCraft. And that's cool. That's on me. just to say that games are just, oh, the game's bad because it's not the top. It's just, no, like, one day League of Legends will probably not be the top game. And it would seem foolish to recall, ugh, League of Legends, what a shit game. It's not even on the top anymore. Like, okay. Okay. I don't. Why are you just shitting on people, man? Whatever, dude. It seems silly to. Okay, whatever. Your rank is too low to analyze this. Heard it when I was playing bronzers. I heard it when I was playing pros. Sportscasters analyze games. Okay, sure, but you clearly haven't played the. You clearly haven't analyzed it that much, because I swear to Jesus, this man could not have analyzed this game and said, "Huh, man, why did they give Hellions a transformation, a utility transfer? I can't believe them. That's just terrible design. Like, what? I don't know, man. That's just the new one. That's just the new take I've never heard before. I wish Hellbats were sick. Don't get me wrong. I had a period of time where I built Blue Flame Hellbats against Protoss, desperately trying to make them work. They didn't. They suck. Okay. Now to go for the comments. Props to you for at least admitting you didn't read it. This might be the most serious response so far. That's troubling. Okay, Grandpa, let's get you to bed. Okay. I've never read anything less relevant to the state of the game of 2021 ever, and I've read a lot of posts by the Riddler. Okay, that's a good one. You're right. The guys who designed / balanced the game for like half its lifetime have nothing to do with the state of it today. Yeah, okay. I will say that of course David Kim and Dustin Browder are going to have a strong impact on the game. Like that's. But at the same time, it's like really, like what are you on about? Comedy gold. They're getting some pretty good giggles. Even the trolls aren't as good as they used to be. That said, getting an industry back decades and costing it billions of dollars isn't that funny. Damn straight, Op is a horrible troll. I disagree. I have 10 Masters finishes, including several top 8. I have a top 8 dime finish. I'm trading Guerrilla Warfare in the top sniper in the entire US. I want my... Oh my god. Oh damn, he actually hit him with a just set it to Wings Liberty troll. Woo! Woo! Okay, he literally complained about how the ladder system doesn't mean anything, getting points, and then he says his credentials is having top 8 finishes. Okay. Which part is the opinion? You think a Banshee can kill workers faster than Oracle? You think 90% of the players aren't gone? Most of that is pretty objective. I'm pretty sure the game actually has more players than it did on release or something like that. It still has a larger player base than like Dota or something like that. I'm pretty sure. Like, there's a lot of people who play StarCraft. They're just kind of hard to find because a lot of them are in co-op actually. Alright, this is an entire another thing. Yeah, this thing, and people like you just can't, if more people had held Blizzard accountable with outrage and losses, it would be a world-class game. Don't be not such bad companies. Actually, most players prefer Wings of Liberty, I assume, unless there's another. Woo! Yeah, I definitely prefer Wings of Liberty. True. Yep, I sure do. I'm not even. Where do you get this like stuff from? Most of the stuff you wrote about Unity is correct, but it's just statements about the game with no link of how this. Yes, this is true. Amen. This is exactly what I was saying. 90% of players left because it's an 11-year-old game. And they moved on to something else, not necessarily because the game got worse. In my opinion, it's improved significantly since Wings of Liberty. I can't think of many games released in 2010 that have still the player base that SC2 does. Oh, did you need to know why power creep makes the game worse? No, it doesn't. No, it... Why do you hate power creep? I don't understand why you just have a crusade against power creep. Whatever. Much of the stuff you read about units is correct, but statements of it, yes. Okay, I already read that. 90% because the Dota League and CSGO don't seem to be having this problem, even though most are older than StarCraft. It's mostly because they suck their format have gotten too much imbalance since they're on release. StarCraft has. It's pretty significantly. Thanks for having the balls to admit I'm arguing facts and you're arguing opinions. What? Okay. I can't. I just listed 3. CSGO was released in 2012. Facts. 99% of CSGOs quit too. Is that even true? Okay, I don't want to read through a thread. Okay, so it's a common misconception that the players have gotten better since then. I missed this. I can't believe I remember reading that and I was like, that's just not true. But I literally, okay. Sure, this kind of thing is fairly standard. For instance, like a track athletes from the 1950s, the series traded, people aren't that much faster. That's track where the competition of the game hasn't stagnated due to the imbalance of the brain. Okay, that's just, okay. That is just straight up wrong. If I had a time machine and I traveled back to 2010, I would be like fucking nuts at the game. I'm pretty sure. Like, I was about to say I would be like an OSL champion or like a GSL champion. Maybe not that nuts, but the years I've played StarCraft compared to people not playing StarCraft back then, like, I would be fucking nuts at the game with just how much knowledge and mechanics I've accumulated. Okay, you might say, oh, but like Flash with his 10 years of Brood War. Okay. I would at least be like a pretty fucking sick player on like a Kespa team, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just, you watch games and you're like, bro, what the fuck are they doing? Like, I remember one of the craziest moments of realization was watching Wings of Liberty micro compilations that I loved as a kid. I was like, holy shit, this is fucking crazy. Nobody has ever done this. And now that's just completely standard. That's just what everyone does. Everyone can split Marines to a decent ability. Everyone can do some level of blink micro. That's just a larger, or okay, shouldn't say everyone, but a larger amount of the player base can do this than before, because the player base in general, the people who stick around, gonna keep getting better. Seems like a lot of effort to out yourself as both an elitist and an idiot. Okay, I'm not going to read that one. Semi-pro, meaning they went to lands personally, have Wikipedia, they're turning on diamond, good luck. Yeah, it's not unheard of. Oh my, don't feel like reading this. Okay. Your points about ladder demonstrate a severe lack of understanding of how the game as a whole works. Yeah. The spread hasn't been part of S2's years. It's clear you have no idea what you're talking about. The only thing I see here is you liked what SE2 was at launch, and you dislike what it is now. That's the only thing to obtain out of this. Yeah. So much text to only miss the mark. Okay. I feel like I've spent enough time on this. In fact, I feel like I've spent a couple lifetimes too long on this. Like, just the amount of time I spent reading it alone, I was like, I think I regret this immediately. Okay, so, a couple points to take away. A lot of this guy's understanding about how RTS games and games in general work is just completely off. I don't understand why he has a complete crusade against power creep. I don't think he understands how elo systems work at all whatsoever. And and he's just, I feel like he's kind of saying a lot of things, but none of these really connect that well. So in English class, we were graded in AP English Language and Literature. We were graded on how well our evidence and analysis could connect back to our thesis. And this man would not have passed that, I believe. Because he's saying a lot of things. He's just saying things and then does not analyze this evidence that he has presented. The evidence is not necessarily incorrect. There are a lot of points that are, but there are a lot of points that aren't. So for instance, mind drops, it's very annoying to have the game instantly end. This evidence is true, but is it connecting back to what he's actually saying? And the answer is just no. He doesn't really say. He says, oh, it has power creep. Okay, so how does power creep? Sure, you might be right. In fact, I would probably agree. Terran is much stronger in Legacy of the Void than it is in Wings of Liberty. Terran would just, if you played the TVT and one person was set to Wings of Liberty, one person was set to Legacy of the Void, you'd fucking shit on him. You have much more tools. And that's fine. The evidence is fine. The analysis is not there. He's just laying out evidence, giving zero analysis, and because there's no analysis, does not connect to his point at all that StarCraft is worse because of this power creep. Had he made a more structured argument and essay, then it would be much easier to understand. But in this case, he's just kind of saying things, some of which are true, some of which are actually true. I'm like, yes, this does happen. Medevacs do go zoom zoom. Why do I care? Why does that matter? And there's just no answer. And because of that, this is just kind of an incoherent mess that he's just struggling to communicate his ideas on why he believes, at least from my takeaway, why he believes that Wings of Liberty on release is the perfect game. And its decline was severely hampered by the changes to the ladder and to the balance/design of the game.